Thank you for taking time on this Saturday morning to attend this session. And by now you have already seen the topic, how to become a trusted advisor in Salesforce consulting. So what do you basically mean by this topic, a trusted advisor? Who do you think is a trusted advisor? Is it just a PM's or a Scrum Master's role in a company to be a trusted advisor to a client? Yes or no? No? Are they the trusted advisor? Is your technical architect or technical lead a trusted advisor to client? Is your developer? So basically this is where we want to debug the myth, and this is where our speakers will walk you through who actually is a trusted advisor, what role they play in whole project or whole in our ecosystem as a whole. And with that, I'll welcome my speakers for the day, Anup Nair and Bhavani Singh. A very warm welcome for them, please. Thank you.
And very warm welcome once again. I totally understand it's too much to show up at 10 o'clock Saturday morning. So thanks very much. Much appreciate your show-ups. So as Ajay mentioned, our today's session is becoming trusted advisor in Salesforce ecosystem. It's not only dependent to Salesforce. You can put it in any consulting world or even in your personal lives, like how to become a trusted advisor. In today's session, what we are trying to achieve is trusted advisor as a cliche term to making it becoming a reality. That's what we are trying to help or trying to address as today's session. Okay? And as a tidbit for today, we'll try to touch upon few strategies and few best practices, some of the tools and techniques also, and I'll get into the agenda for today's session. So as I mentioned, strategies, best practices to a very good story, tools and techniques, and then eventually we'll lead to a Q&A session. If you have any questions, we'll try our best to answer those. So with that, let's get into the first topic, which is strategy. So can we have a raise of hand if anyone understands this poster? It's a movie poster. So I see quite a few hand raised. It's a very prominent animated, fictional animated movie from year 2010, How to Train Your Dragon. I've chosen this poster as a starting point before getting into strategies. I just want to make sure that a common baseline so that it's very relatable and easy to understand while getting into the individual strategies. So I'll quickly touch base on a brief summary of this movie. It's a story of a young Viking, which is Hiccup, one of the main character. Another character is the dragon, named Toothless. It's a story of these two main characters. Here, the challenge or the main problem statement was the dragon has a broken tail. Okay, that was the challenge. And during the course of interactions between each and other parties, they understood the problem statement, and the Hiccup as a Viking also have a skill set that he's a blacksmith, like who carve out iron products, iron items. So he understood the problem statement, the challenge, and came up with an idea with a very curated, fit-to-purpose tail, so that the dragon, as a dragon that needs to fly seamlessly, take sharp turns and all, able to do that with that tail. So it's a man-made tail. That was the solution. As an end result, this is a fun, happy result that they became close together, became each other's trusted advisor, and through the problem statement they fixed, this is the benefit eventually to lead to a dragon's misery, ending the misery, and how they ended up with this solution, identifying the challenges, we'll come to know through our strategies. So first and foremost, important, as any starting point, you need to have active listening. And it's very different from hearing, guys. So I just want to make sure you understand the difference between hearing and listening. Active listening is something where you understand the requirement, what exactly the person who is speaking to you is sharing. That's very important. And more importantly, you need to understand what they are saying and then ask more proactive questions which will further unfold their challenge and get you also as an end result understanding the problem statement. If you better understand the problem statement with your expertise, you will be able to carve out a far better bespoke solution. So that's why active listening is very important. As a second strategy, it's adaptability. And I'll take a very relevant Salesforce example for this one, for adaptability. Day in, day out, you work with multiple clients, and more or less, you work as implementing a more or less a same cloud implementation, be it on a sales cloud implementation, service cloud implementation, or maybe marketing cloud implementation. What make one client to another client different is the nuances they bring forth. The nuances with their respective industry, with their respective end user. Every client become a very unique proposition they bring forth as a problem or a challenge statement also. So as a trusted advisor, you need to adapt to that problem statement before getting into the solutioning. So with that, I'll get into the next strategy, which is open communication. So open, it's a very positive word to looking to open to all sides of not restricting yourself to certain mindset or prejudice. Open yourself, and this will bring more important active interactions and discussing the problem statement, discussing the issues while implementing or while gathering those requirements. This will help you better communicate between each other. You can understand, discuss all the dependencies, impediments, which will help you to reach to the final ultimate goal of successful result as a trusted advisor. So you need to make sure that you have a open communication between both the parties as a client and as a trusted advisor. This is another important strategy, which is demonstrating the expertise. As I mentioned earlier, the problem statement was the broken tail. And the solution they came up with, or Hiccup came up with, is a bespoke handmade tail. And just because how he's able to prepare that, because he has that blacksmith skill set. Okay? So it's not only having that expertise, but making it sure that expertise you can leverage it when we need it on the best day possible. So that's where you need to showcase that demonstration of expertise. This will help your client and whosoever receiving on the receiving end of the solution is to make understand that whatever we are saying, we are the SMEs of that matter. That's very important. So when we are suggesting them some solutions, some workarounds, or even saying that this is not possible at this juncture, but maybe gradually, once the foundation is ready, we can pick it up in the future phases. That kind of advisory will backed up with this expertise. You have the market understanding, you have the solution understanding, and then you can bring forth a better proposition of your solution. That leads to another strategy, value creation. This is very important. Just think from this perspective. If I don't give you any new information or a knowledge or a input which is beneficial for you, you might not show up for this session. If you don't give you a well-tasting coffee, you might not show up. So we need to bring forth the value we are creating with our each action. That's very important. Or else you will lose the interest or whosoever is on the receiving end. So as a trusted advisor, you always need to understand with your solutions, with your results, what unique value proposition you are bringing forth. That's very important. Then the personalized solution, and this is very important. As I mentioned earlier also, from that dragon story, if you don't have well carved out tail, you will not able to take sharp turns, or not able to take a deep dive while getting into the fixing the tail. So we need to make sure that each solution we are bringing forth has a uniqueness which understand the problem statement of the client and then providing those solutions accordingly. There's no point we can give all over the information, all over the solution, which is maybe not even needed for that person or that client on the first place. So as a trusted advisor, we need to make sure that whatever solution we are bringing forth is personalized, bespoke solution. Then continuous learning. This demonstrating the expertise will not be achieved without that continuous learning. So in the background also you can see a Dragon manual. There's nothing called that thing, by the way. But the point is learning, continuous learning. Learning about your client, learning about your industry, learning about your solution also. There might be a chance that you brought forth a solution which may not sustainable for a longer term because the ecosystem is also changing. So you need to make sure that whatever solution you're bringing forth is not only for that immediate short-term goal, but a long-term sustainability also. That's a must-have. And that can be implemented only if you have the knowledge. And to have that knowledge, that continuous learning plays a very critical and crucial role. Establish trust. If you are doing everything except not able to establish trust, it makes no difference, because becoming a trusted advisor, the important word is trusted. So if you don't trust each other, like whatever suggestion I'm bringing forth, whatever information I'm bringing forth, whether this will bring the value proposition for the end user, then that trust will not be there. So establishing a trust is it's a humongous task. And it can't be achieved in a day one or day zero. It's a continuous juggle, continuous activity of all these strategies putting together. And if we are able to do all these 8 strategies, then I'm 100% sure if you continue to lead to that, you will be able to reach to a juncture where you can call yourself that I'm a trusted advisor for my end user or for my client, whatever value proposition you're bringing or whatever solutions you're bringing. So that's very important. Understanding the challenge, bringing forth the best suitable solution, and then reaching to a result which will help that client to have a successful journey altogether. So with that, I'll lead to a next fun story piece where we will touch base on few best practices also. This is where you need to listen to the story very carefully so that you can tick mark or check mark the best practices you're observing while we are narrating or while we are sharing the story. So as I requested, active participation. With that, I'll ask my next host to join in, Bhavani.
Thank you, Anup. Thank you, Anup, for sharing these valuable strategies so well to us. And in fact, before going into our story, just want to check one thing with you all. What was the first strategy Anup shared with us? Active listening? I'm glad that you guys are with us. So the story name is The Code of Trust. This story is of a guy named Arjun. Before we in fact deep dive into story, just want to tell you one more thing, and that is how it is going to work. This story is divided into 2 parts, part 1 and part 2. The strategies and the best practices which Anup recently shared and described are gonna be used by Arjun in solving a problem. After part 1, there is a quick Q&A kind of session where any one of you can share his opinion and views that which all strategies you think was used by Arjun into part 1 and which all activities used by Arjun into part 2. Here nothing is gonna be wrong and nothing is going to be right. This is your own thought, your own opinion, and then we can simply discuss all those. So Arjun is a student who is in final year, basically coming from a village, and he has 2 things. 1, he is amazing in coding. 2, his immense love towards tea. In fact, he is so good in coding, and in fact, he is so much into love with tea that he gives the entire credit of his coding and I would say solving complex problems to the chai itself. Today is the final day of his graduation, graduating from college, and as he is basically from village, before going into the thinking of what next and what should be my career looks like, he thought it's good to have spent some time with our family. So he went back to his village. So it's been 4 years he was living into the city, and before that he was living into village itself. Now he has two flavors. One is of city, the second one was of village. Correct? In college, apart from coding, he also learned how to live a disciplined life and how to inculcate things into behavior. And in college, he also learns and understand the importance of health, and that is why he usually do a morning jog on a daily routine. While doing a morning jog, he realized that how the farmers are doing their daily work, how they are living their life, and what all trades we have into village. He also noticed that they are producers, there are transporters, and there are retailers. But he also realized that the livelihood which we have in city is not like the livelihood which we have in village. There is a very I would say difference in income, and this is where he realized that all these three trades and all these facilities are already at his disposal in city. When it comes to city, we just have to, in fact, any one of you can simply pull out your phone, on some clicks, whatsoever you want will be at this doorstep, correct? Be it food or be it grocery or whatsoever. But this is not something which village has. So he came up with an idea. What if the same things which we have into city, what if I connect all these three trades for villagers also? By these, possibly he can resolve their problem, and they can also able to get all those things at their disposal. This is a college grad, recently graduated, and I think he is fair on his point. He is not someone professional who knows what all challenges could be. But the thing which he decided to do was why we should, or why he should not discuss this idea with the end consumer. And that is where he went to the villagers. He started sitting with villagers, start discussing with them. As you can see into the slide also, farmers were disappointed. They were like, dude, this is not our problem. Our problem is we are not getting enough money for our hard work, and we are not able to survive the way we should. We are getting very less money, which is impacting our livelihood, our generation, growth, and everything, because money is an important factor. And then he came up with an idea. Building an app is okay, but the concept was not to give them luxury, because the problem statement is different. There is a challenge that they are not getting right returns against their hard work. So he thought that what if I building an app which can connect this market, our goods which you guys are producing, to the city market. By this, whatsoever we are producing into our village can directly go to end consumer, and we will be able to get the market of the price of city market instead of the local price. This is where they got convinced. They were like, okay, if we can get money, then it's good. We are happy with it. What all behaviors or strategy and the best practices was used by Arjun in part 1. Please. Open communication, correct? Listen to problem statement. Adaptability with you. Active listening, yes. Correct. Establish the trust. So all of them are correct. And the second part is, I am glad that all of you is following the first strategy shared by Anup, that is active listening. So going back to some of the high level of the key takeaways, empathy and understanding makes Arjun feel like what villagers are feeling. Second one is active listening, which I believe so far everyone knows how much important it is to relate to the problem statement. Third is open communication, Because if open communication was not there, then I believe Arjun might be, build a blanket app for the villagers which might not add any kind of value and possibly a failure project also. And deep knowledge and expertise. Without knowledge about coding and his expertise, his brilliancy in coding and the chai which give him a power to crack any kind of critical bug. Without these two things, he won't be able to think about it. He was also, what can we do about this problem? This is not something which we can resolve. So, getting deep knowledge will make you an expert in your trade. Moving to part 2. So far, Arjun is able to understand what he has to do. But this is not somewhere, the story ends or the game changes. This is the point where the actual problems start arise. Arjun, just like you and I, Arjun also have some of the advisors and the college professors with whom he want to bounce back his idea. It is always good to gain experts' opinion also. So he start calling some of his professors into college and start questioning them. So I am trying to build an app for villagers. What do you think, sir? Professor was like, it's a good idea. What you want to do? Professor said, professor asked him, and Arjun said, I just want to make sure that villagers are getting this right amount for their goods so that their livelihood can improvise. And these conversations lead him to a lot of open questions, which firstly he need to address to build that app before even going to villagers with his idea. He built a prototype, drafted all his thoughts and presented one of his opinion to the villagers. Some of the things which he considered and identified was, first, his audience was farmers. Do you expect a farmer to be graduated or in fact having or holding some fancy degree? Do you think a farmer can be tech friendly? These are the problems about which he need to firstly think before building his product or in fact showing a prototype to his end users. So in this photo also you might realize that to solve these problems what he used is the personalized approach where he simply instead of more text he simply use graphics by putting the icon so that farmer who is not well educated, who is not tech friendly can simply use that application. He also instead of giving more functionality or make it more complex, tried to fix this problem by simply putting the numbers. For an example, any farmer can simply select any crop by looking at the photo itself. Everyone, regardless of how much educated they are, everyone can count money, right? That means the basic maths is something which everyone knows. These are the two principles which he used. He showed this is not the app, he simply showed an idea, helped them to visualize, this is what I am thinking, and take a early sign off and feedback from client. In our case, he also gathered all the feedbacks which he's supposed to inculcate into his project. After gathering all the feedbacks, he started working on the prototype and the first first version of the application, and after building it, he went back to the villagers. He went back to showcase that this is how it is going to work. Are you guys able to use it? Do you guys face any kind of issues in it? Or what do you think? Is it going to solve your problem? And everyone was like, yes, this is usable, this addresses our problem, yes, this is addressing all those challenges which we were facing, and yes, it gives us a hope that our goods are gonna be sold at a correct price point. So this is the part 2, and sir, what all strategies, best practices you guys think was used by? Please go ahead. Establish boundaries. That is a correct perspective. I'm with you. Thank you. Follow up and follow through. Correct. I am with you, with all of you, and agree with all of you with every point. And some of the points which we have highlighted was The first one is to be state playback and sign off. It is always good to take and seek early feedbacks instead of building something, then showcase it and get the feedback, and what if it was not usable for the end user. The second is seek truthful feedback. To seek truthful feedback, you have to be open. Without seeking a truthful feedback, there is a high chances that the client might end up in, okay, it's okay, let it be, right? But the problem and the value creation will be missing in that case. Tailored solution, which you highlighted earlier also, continuous improvement, integrity and transparency. So this entire story ends up where villagers start using cell phones, start getting a handsome amount against their goods and products, and everyone can see that the livelihood of village is getting increased. With this, I'll pass it again to Anoop for take you through tools and techniques.
Thank you very much, Bhavani. And thanks for everyone to listen properly to the story and participating in the activities also. And as a callback also, we bring back this story once again in one of our upcoming activities. So it's a good practice to remember whatever you have listened, heard, and documented also. Okay? Thanks very much for once again for that. So with this, our next topic and item is tools and techniques. So we went through with the strategy, best practices, and now we are going to touch base few tools and techniques which we can use in our day-to-day life, regardless whether you're a developer, QA, functional lead, or a business analyst, or a project manager, or a scrum master. This is one activity, like if you are working with a client engagement, you can leverage this as a tool or as a technique to better bring your forth towards the becoming a trusted advisor. So that's what we are trying to achieve here through this next topic, which is tools and techniques. So first and foremost, client profiling. Client profiling is something where we identify and better understand about your client who is going to receive your services as a trusted advisor. That's very important, that you better understand that person from a technology standpoint, from an industry standpoint, and more importantly, as a person, what's their inclination, whether they are more focused towards the business or more focused towards the technology. This will eventually help you to bring forth the better solution, and more important, the bespoke solution to cater their requirement. If someone who is very focused on the business part, he might go ahead with not very fancy technology if that solution is providing the business goals. Okay? So that's where we need to make sure what exactly, as a client, this person or this individual has an inclination towards. It always helps you better understand that person on an individual level, and more importantly, ask more, probing more questions while gauging in more requirements, more inputs from as an end result also about that challenge. So client profiling is very important from that perspective as a technique. Second is capital of Russia, Moscow. So I know it's a war zone now, but this is different. So this is again a technique which we use to bifurcate all the requirements. Whatever challenge statement or problem statement or pain point we have heard so far, we just bucket it out. So this Moscow, apart from the fact that it's the name of a city or capital, it's a bifurcation of few words putting together. One is must have, second one is should have, and third one is could have, and last one is W, which is will not have or won't have. And this particular Moscow technique also bucketize the proportion of the requirement also. So must have is something which you will be, it's a bare minimum. It's like an MVP kind of thing. So must have is 50% of that bucket of overall chunk of requirement is 50% is something. considered as a must-have. And should have is like a bucket of 25%, and similar could have can be 25%, and then won't have will be 0% because 50, 25, 25, the maths is 100%, okay? So won't have means it won't have for that particular solution at that juncture. It may happen in future phases or in future, okay? It's not like that it will never have. It's a valid requirement, but at that juncture or at the level of client at that time, you basis your expertise and basis your understanding of the solution, you are suggesting, you're recommending that this is something we don't require at this moment, maybe we can have this in future. So with that, this is another activity session. So I'll ask 2 volunteers to come in and have this activity where you guys need to take a note. There's a second page where you need to list out the must have, should have, could have, and won't have. So with that, I'll ask one of you, the volunteer. Utkarsh, maybe you can join in, and Jaren, from you can join from here. So I'll quickly set the stage for these 2 guys. So one person is representing the client, which is Jaren. The other person is a soon to be becoming a trusted advisor in this case. And maybe some of you might have some callbacks also. So this is where Jaren as a requirement sharing piece, share the requirements, and then Utkarsh and you all will be taking a note and bucket it out as a Moscow technique.
Hi Utkarsh.
Hi, Jaren.
Nice to meet you.
Same here.
I am the marketing manager of Castle World. I manage the marketing strategies and oversee the marketing campaigns. And as you know, like from past few months, we have been facing some marketing challenges in our Castle World. So we are hoping that you could help us some solutions.
Well, I'm very glad to assist you, Jaren, over here, and thanks for sharing all the information. Before starting with or proceeding further, I would like to know your current marketing strategies and what all challenges are there that you're facing.
Yeah, of course. I mean, currently we are running like multiple campaigns. We are sending emails and communications to our B2C customers and B2B partners as well. And we're like heavily investing in our traditional advertising, that is billboards and printing advertisements. And currently our mode of communication is email. And our content is kind of very generic to the audience. But coming back to the main challenge here, we have been seeing a lot of decline in the sales and the decline in our footfalls, and we're also seeing a lot of decline in our engagement deliverables. So we are hoping that you could help us find solutions here.
Well, certainly, Jaren. And as you have shared that you have been experiencing a decline in footfall in recent time, so we need to know the root cause of this decline first. So before we move further, have you done any analysis why there has been the decline in the footfall?
Well, Utkarsh, we have done some preliminary analysis, but it sounds that it may not be resonating with our current audience because our content is very generic and we're not using any kind of personalization yet. So what I personally feel is like there is a miss of a personal touch in our communications.
Okay. Certainly, Jaren, for this point of views, what we can do is, first of all, we need to know the demographics of our audience. And by knowing the demographics of our audience, what we can achieve is we ensure that we send relevant messages to relevant customers. And how do we ensure that relevant messages are reaching to relevant customer is when we are saying that you are sending out email as the main communication, we can add some dynamic content in through those emails, and we can add some personalized recommendations in those emails.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a very comprehensive approach. So my next concern here is regarding the marketing channels. Like we want to explore more marketing communication so that we can diversify our marketing strategies, and we in our like near future I am looking forward like we can overhaul the app experience as well.
Okay. So for diversifying your communication channel, what we can do is we can opt for omni-channel communication. And by omni-channel communication, what we can target is we try to send the communication through SMS, we try to send communication through push notification, through WhatsApp and email as we are already doing it. For your And in near future, what we can target is overhauling your overall app experience by adding some functionalities or by adding some new features into those apps.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, that sounds like a very promising approach. So the next concern here I would like to address is regarding the consent management, because we are not able to manage the customer preferences and their consent, and as like growing emphasis on the data privacy like GDPR. So how would you able to help here?
Well, that's a very good point, Jaren, because data privacy is the big thing as of now. And as you have already quoted GDPR, I would like to tell you, apart from GDPR, there are many more laws that are guiding the data privacy and consent management. So for consent management, what we can do for you is we can build a consent management platform. By consent management platform, you would have already heard of Customer Preference Center. What we can do through them is we can very efficiently manage the consent of your customers. So you can manage what customers want to receive through the publication list that are, so let's just say there are 5 publication lists, but a customer wants to receive only from 2 of them. He can opt in or opt out from them, or he totally do not wants to receive your communication. He can unsubscribe, or he wants to receive the messages from every publication list. So he can also do that, and that will surely help you in managing your preferences very efficiently.
Oh, nice. I mean, that's great. So the next challenge here is regarding the lack of automated communications in our business. So we want their help.
Well, I would say the automation is required and is the necessity of every business. Like every business wants its process to be automated. So now that we are talking about automation, have you identified any area where exactly you want this automation to be put up?
I mean, currently our the communications are heavily dependent on manual sense. Like we're sending email communications to our customers, we are sending the follow-up reminders. So these are like few touch points where we are sending communications, but everything is like manual.
Surely. So now what we achieve through automation is basically we handle our processes very efficiently and very effectively to manage all our customers. And now that you're saying that your major communication is through emails as of now, we already discussed that we are collecting the demographics of audiences. Now what we can do is through those demographics, we can analyze the historical data of your customers and eventually target to when to send those emails. Not only from the historical data, we can also automate sending of of the emails that Castle World is sending through any trigger points or through any actions that a customer takes.
Yeah, I mean, exactly, that's what I'm envisioning. I want to make sure like our customers, we get the accurate and timely communications at every touch point. So thank you for addressing that, Utkarsh. And like we're also in near future, we're also interested in exploring overall marketing strategies as well. So thank you for all your insights. Looking forward to work with you.
Well, that I'm very glad to help you, Jaren, over here. And together, I think we'll build a very comprehensive solutions that will help Castle World to elevate all its pain points and challenges.
Yeah.
So let's build that together, right?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Let's do this.
Let's do this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So coming back, so to the activity which I mentioned earlier, we had a role play of client and a trusted advisor, and I requested you all to document the requirements in a bucketed manner, must have, should have, could have. So can we have some raise of hand where you guys can share what should be, in your view, considered as a must have or a should have or a could have? Yeah, please go ahead, Manish.
It would be like increasing engagement with the users, because when I actually profile the customer from a trusted advisor viewpoint, like she seems to be somebody who is not a techie and more inclined towards the business and the sales and everything. So it feels like to me that increasing engagement from her point of view would be the must-have from, right? And the way to increase engagement is to be like using marketing channels, more marketing channels, because as you mentioned that currently it is only email now.
Yeah.
But if we can increase those marketing channels from SMS and the push notifications and everything else, then would be the chances that the engagement of the users could be improved. Yeah, so it is first. And then if those could be automated as well, and it would be really helpful for the business to spend less time on running these campaigns and to engage their customers more.
Okay, thanks. Any more? Yeah.
There should be data privacy, as they mentioned, like they have the data. So the data privacy rules and regulations should must be there basically.
So you used must and should both together. So I just want to understand, in your view, it should be a must-have or a should-have?
Must-have.
Yeah. Any more?
As per I can see, like I just use this technique to judge that particular advisor, like it is stated or not, like what kind of things he should have or he should not have or he must have, must not have. So first thing I think he must have the root cause analysis part, which is using that. For example, like a client will be came with us with that problem, but not why this problem is created. So the root cause analysis will be must.
Correct.
Must have as in personal trusted advisor.
Yeah.
He knows like this is the particular thing which is lacking or this particular area.
Yeah.
Second thing I can say, like they are showing he's telling the client that this kind of approach I can use, but I think so like he should have or could have has the pros and cons with the approach.
Yeah.
Like we are using this approach. This is the pros of the approach, but these are also the cons, which we are working on it. But this is the best solution in the market till now.
Understood. So I'll just do a follow-up on this point. So this Moscow technique we are using for collecting the requirements, okay? Not for the documenting the solution. That's to be state one. There's another technique for Moscow in particular is only to gauge in the problem statement, the requirements, the pain points. We can think about the solutions back of our mind, but make sure as part of open communication and active listening to gauge as much as possible the requirements, probe as much as possible questions, which will lead you to a better understanding of the requirements. But by and large, solutioning from a technique perspective, we are keeping out, just because this is a Moscow technique for requirements at this juncture. And we need to bounce back some of the suggestions also, which will make the client also to better understand, better visualize, because everything at the requirement stage, everything is a visual one. They don't have a tangible pieces. So they also think proactively and visualize the end solution, at least somewhere back of their mind, so that they don't end up in all over the place, okay? And more importantly, as I mentioned, as an open communication, we also need to guide them, to moderate them, to lead to a better requirement sharing, because we need to understand they might be SME from a business perspective, but not SME from a technology perspective, and that's where all the other strategies like continuous learning, becoming a expert in your field comes into play. Okay. With that, I'll get into the R version of Moscow, and as Bhavani also called out, like there might be not particular answer. This is the most optimized answer in our view. So we have categorized it: must have, should have. So this particular section is entirely must have, should have, and could have. And then won't have, I think I didn't receive any won't have as a answer, but that's totally fine. As I mentioned, even though it's a 0%, you just need to make sure that you document it. In a way, you're bringing forth a future state work also for yourself. So if you follow all the strategies, best practices, and become a trusted advisor, mark my word, you will be working on this won't haves in future. With me so far? Let's move to another technique, which is key stakeholder identification. We try to showcase as much as possible with this GPT generated image. What exactly is that? While working with client, you will end up with many folks, many SMEs, be it from marketing side, sales side, or technology side also, and they will bring forth their requirements, they will bring forth their pain points, they will bring forth their challenges, and they will bring forth their solutions also, basis their expertise. As a trusted advisor, we need to understand, we need to identify who are those key stakeholders, who are those decision makers, who will actually help you to carve out a proper solution and lead to a successful result. So that's where this identifying key stakeholders always play a very crucial role. And I'll give you one example. So let's say the project sponsorer. In my view, he's the one of the key stakeholders. Just think from this perspective. You say, I want to have a chatbot, AI, all AI sort of things, and he say, I'm not going to sponsor this. I'm not going to approve this commercially. There's no point. So you need to identify while working as a trusted advisor in your client interactions, all your touch points, identify who are those key stakeholders, who are those decision makers, which will help you to better curate a proper solution. More importantly, when you end up with some sort of a dependencies or impediments, you can look up to them or reach out to them to make sure if it is certain dependencies which are controlled by client side, they help you fix it, mitigate it, so that you reach to your success goal on a timely manner. So identifying key stakeholders is a very good technique to, while working in the state of becoming a trusted advisor stage. Documentation. This is not only a technique, this is something we must inculcate, and I think we start taking notes, doing homeworks since our elementary school days. So no change. Documentation. Documenting the decisions, documenting the solution, and more importantly, documenting the sign-offs. That's very important. Just think from this perspective, what are the benefits of this documentation? You are working in an enterprise level project, which is like 3 years or 2 years long, and you want to verify certain things, certain decisions. If you haven't documented that with the complete details, who all were participating while making that decision, you will always end up that there's no reference point, there's no traceability. So that's where documentation come into play. And think from this perspective as a trusted advisor or as a service provider also, if you are not documenting what technical solution you are preparing for that particular client, if you want to refer it back for similar case study in future, you will not able to do it if you're not able to document that technical solution. So documentation is a very simple word, very easy to relate word, but what's more important, it's very important also. Active listening, I think this is what we are doing since 10 o'clock, and it's a good thing. I observed one gap though. Karthik, you mentioned boy. You forgot the boy's name, I believe. It's Arjun. So please be more attentive. So active listening is not only listening, but probing, and more importantly, bring that person to reach to a better solution or better requirement sharing. So that's active listening. Then we have a active listening activity also. Yeah, it's a small exercise. Let's delve into that active listening piece, and that way we will be able to have another session. So I'll ask volunteers to show up. So Jaren, Ankit, please.
Namaste Priya ji. I am thrilled to announce Krishi Connect app to you. We have built an app that can really help you to connect with the buyers so that you can get a maximum profitability.
Yeah, Namaste Arjunji. So that's quite impressive. So apart from this, I wanted to discuss regarding the market access specifically.
Priya ji, like going into the big market is a very exciting thing. I know this thing. But have you ever considered of like how water can impact your crop quality? or like how the water impact can increase your profitability?
Yeah, I mean, I understand like water challenges.
Priyaji,
Like,
I am thinking of creating a feature into Krishi Connect app that can really help you to like get irrigation tips, to connect with the expert who have like irrigation, know about irrigation and all. So that can increase your profitability and that can increase your crop yield. So have you like ever thought about it?
yeah, I understand like water challenge is important and water scarcity
Yeah,
should
yeah,
be there. But
Piraji,
my
I am
primary
like,
challenge.
I am majorly thinking of like launching this into our application like soon so that farmer can get into the profitability.
Yeah, I understand, Arjunji. Like, but my main concern here is like I was hoping that you could address the issue of connecting with the buyers and the transparent transactions. So that was our immediate concern here, not like water scarcity. So
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
So with this quick activity, I'll quickly share. It's not like they are not prepared, and that's why they are continuously interjecting or interrupting. That was intended to that way. That's the way it was. So what we are trying to showcase, the Arjun good guy, you saw in the previous story, where he understood all the requirements through active listening, open communications, and everything. Here, in this second act, where he is continuously like interrupting the other lady, they made sure that whatever discussion they are reaching to will not lead to the actual problem statement. So that's where this active listening, it's not only listening, stop interrupting, no need to interject, let the person, respect the speaker, let them speak, share the details so that you can take a note of it. And if you have further probing, probe it, okay, instead of interrupting or discussing. So that was the whole gist of that second act, to showcase Arjun as a negative character. So with that, will lead to a last raid log. I hope you guys heard this word before. It's an abbreviation, by the way. So it's an abbreviation. R stands for risk, A stands for assumption, I stands for issues, D stands for dependencies. So we are maintaining a log of risk, assumption, issue, and dependency. Okay? I'll quickly brief examples of each. First, risk is a risk is something which is not arrived yet. It is on outside or on your window or on your door and has a probability of occurrence. What exactly I mean by probability of occurrence is something is at our level on a receiving end. I can decide whether should I kill or mitigate that risk on an immediate basis or wait until that risk to come in, okay? So it's just think from this perspective. It's an unwanted guest at your home and knocking the ring bell, okay? And you need to decide whether you should open the door or not. It's as simple as that. If you decide, I don't want to open the door, then you can shout from inside as a mitigation approach that I don't need your help or support, whatever you are bringing forth. I don't need you. Please carry on, okay? So that's a risk. Assumption is something we are assuming for certain solution to get rid of any ambiguity as a trusted advisor between client and trusted advisor. You are documenting what are assumptions you are bring forth or your thought while proposing those solutions. Not implementing, but while proposing. So list out those assumptions and play it back with your client so that there's enough transparency and sign off on those assumptions also. So playing it back will make him aware that these are the assumptions these guys are, as a trusted advisor, bringing forth, and taking a sign off means that's a decision now. Okay? With me so far? Issue is something, remember that door knocking, someone outside on your door? You open the door without checking or without timely mitigating that client, whosoever on the door. So that's issue. You opened the door, now it became a issue. Now you need to tackle it. By hook or crook, you need to tackle it. You need to fix it. But now that probability of occurrence is 0 because you opened the door. I hope this difference between risk and issue will go back to you when you guys wrap up. The last one is dependencies. As I mentioned earlier also, it's a highlighting the impediments, the problem statement you are observing while implementing. Okay? So dependencies from that perspective. You are dependent to not make progress. You're blocked. You can block because of some third-party vendor, as we briefly touched one of the examples previously, or maybe something that the technology or the technology side of the client is not ready. They're not ready to kickstart the implementation. That's a dependency. So that's RAID, risk, assumption, issue, and dependencies. There's a decision register also. That's where we document the decisions. So that's why I said, aside the arrogance, the D stands for dependencies.
Just to throw out a suggestion over here, as these guys claim that they are trusted advisors to client, your questions does not always have to limit to the presentation itself. So questions are nearly what techniques can be used, what is RAID log, so and so. Think of something which you have experienced or faced in your project. So I'll put forward one situation for them because they claim to be trusted advisors, and I want to pick their mind on how would they handle that particular situation. So let's say I'd ask a simple question that, hey Anup, I'm Bhavani, my client keeps deviating from the topic or the setup meeting agenda, and that is happening more often than ever. Every meeting we get on, first 10 minutes we discuss the certain agenda, then the client completely diverts. So this scenarios, you have to think of something which you have faced in your projects or your implementations, and let's pick their mind on this as well. So something like this. So how do you address this particular situation, Anup?
So I think it's a very
and again we don't want to draw that thin line because the client has
very
already
evident
crossed
from
it.
our previous discussion point also that when we are not able to meet up the timelines, we are debating further. So it's a responsibility of a session organizer who is actually organizing the session, be it any session. It's a client interaction, client meetings or whatever. It's their job to bring that person, if there's any detours or moving out of the main agenda point, bring them back humbly as possible. Okay? So reiterate that once, twice, just to make sure that whatever time slot you have made, 30 minutes, 15 minutes, you achieve those agenda goals so that we can claim that this is a success engagement altogether. So it's organizer's job to bring back whosoever is deviating, to bring back to the common topic. You guys did a fantabulous job actively participating, listen to our probes. So much appreciated. Thanks for your time.